UFC 312 just wrapped up, and while they weren't the greatest fights in the world, there were still a couple of good performances to talk about. Dricus du Plessis retains his belt. Strickland by unanimous decision, 50-45 on two judges' score, and 41 of the. Dricus du Plessis looked really good in the fight. I think that this fight is a combination of Dricus putting all of his together and Sean Strickland kind of being figured out. One thing that I really noticed is Dricus was just able to land on Sean Strickland and overwhelm Sean's defense. So Sean's favorite type of defense is just keep his hands high and fight with his opponents and head back. Dricus was just able to overcome that. He was able to overcome that by stepping in close to big right hooks that actually catch Sean Strickland on the face and back. He was able to overcome that by landing a ton of kicks to Sean Strickland's legs, to Sean Strickland's body, and to Sean Strickland's head. Again, Sean Strickland's defense is more on a linear line, so when you were able to target those legs and also attack from the sides onto the body, onto the head with big kicks, that's going to cause Sean Strickland fits. Sean Strickland also doesn't really move his feet that much, and Dricus does move his feet. And so when he blitzes into Strickland, either Strickland's going to move backwards and possibly get hit at the end of Dricus's combinations with those big reaching overhand rights or lefts that Dricus throws. Or Dricus is going to crash into him. You're going to end up in the clinch where Dricus is able to land some pretty good shots there too. Dricus was able to land a spinning elbow to the face of Strickland, was able to land a spinning back fist to Strickland, lots of kicks. In round 4, he busted up Sean Strickland's nose, almost finished there. Strickland has an anti-type of cardio, which is super impressive, basically increasing foot over the course of the fight, round by round, every round land punches. Last round, I scored the fight 45-50 with Dricus du Plessis winning all 5 rounds. Sean Strickland really just did not seem to be able to have enough defense to keep up with everything that Plessis was putting out there. And as tough as Sean Strickland is, he really slows down when his legs are getting beaten down, body's getting beaten down, and when he's getting punched in the face repeatedly. His jab was simply not there because du Plessis did a great job of getting off of the center line every time du Plessis was throwing in those combinations. And these really wide sweeping hooks that Sean Strickland likes to throw when his opponent is close just are not as effective as I hope they are. I think that Sean Strickland is getting a little bit figured out. His main defense is just throwing his arms up and hoping that his opponent doesn't really hit him. He doesn't really move his head off the center line, and so when you can get past this hand fighting level that Sean Strickland puts out there, he's vulnerable to getting hit. And also, when he's not the one pressing the pace forward, he's not throwing as much. When his opponents throw on him, he is reacting much more, and as a result, his output is way less than it is against him. So we just have to keep in mind, he fought Adesanya and beat Adesanya. Then he fought Dricus, lost to Dricus, fought Paulo Costa, and he actually beat Paulo Costa, but Paulo Costa was landing a lot of big kicks to Sean Strickland. He was landing a lot of jabs to Strickland's body. And I think that was the beginning of Sean Strickland really being figured out by his opponent. Dricus du Plessis kind of picked up where Paulo Costa left and then really put a big pace on Strickland. In round 4, breaking his nose. In round 5, just landing some really big concussive blows and winning by unanimous. I think Dricus du Plessis does such a good job of mixing up his style of attack. I think he does a great job of pacing himself. His cardio is actually really strong, and it's just getting better every fight. Once again, he's landing more punches every single round than the previous round. He was landing really good teep kicks to Sean Strickland's leg, keeping him way, keeping that distance. That's a great range management. Body kicks were super active for Dricus du Plessis. Not only were they effective, completely turning Sean Strickland's back red. Look at how red this body is. But also, he was able to then utilize the fact that he was training Sean Strickland to defend this body kick, to then bring the kick upstairs, hit Sean Strickland in the face. So he was just so successful at beating up Sean Strickland everywhere. We also can't forget that Dricus du Plessis has this wrestling threat that his opponents are going to really have to worry about if they start fighting Dricus du Plessis. And even though he didn't knock out Sean Strickland, he landed some really big shots to Strickland. He was attacking him from all angles, having a large variety in the different types of strikes that he was landing on Strickland, and a variety in the different targets that he was. Strickland's leg was broken. Strickland's body was broken. His nose was busted up, and he was getting concussed through the shots that Dricus was landing. I want to see Dricus du Plessis fight Khamzat Chimaev. I think that is potentially fight of the in terms of how crazy that's going. I think Sean Strickland should fight Nasser Imavov, or if we want to have a bit of a lackluster and fight, he can fight Adesanya. Because as it stands now, I don't think that Adesanya Strickland are ever going to win a belt, let alone I don't think they're even going to fight for a belt. And I think that Nasruddin Imavov could almost pick me up fight, see how much he's grown in the 2 years since he last fought Sean. Since Dricus du Plessis is going to fight Khamzat Chimaev probably sometime late this year, that's going to be probably the last fight that Dricus du Plessis fights in 2025. I think Nasruddin Imavov should take another fight. I think Sean Strickland is the perfect candidate for that fight. Dricus du Plessis claims that he is the top 3 pound for pound fighter in the UFC. I have to. Good, super solid chin, great cardio, really aggressive grappling and striking, and good defense. Seems like a really tough threat, and I don't see any middleweight. Maybe Nasruddin Imavov could beat him, but I really don't see anyone beating him unless he moves up to light heavyweight and fights someone like Alex Pereira. Sean Strickland, I don't think he's ever going to fight for a belt again. And as I said before, his style is getting figured out. You really just have to overwhelm him with the amount of strikes. And when you are throwing strikes, Sean Strickland tends to shut down. He had some pretty decent combinations where he was landing jabs through Dricus's guard, but just those hooks where he leans off to the side and wings out those punches really are not effective at all. Usually they land on the neck of the opponent, which is not the best place to land, and they just simply don't have the required power to knock out the opponent or hurt on middleweight like Dricus du Plessis. I think that Sean Strickland really could have utilized better counter striking in this fight, but it just shows that his skills as a middleweight are extremely limited. Really just tries to hand fight and lean back. That's his one instinct when he gets punches thrown at him. Instead of actually trying to his head off the center line, avoid big punches that his opponents are throwing at him, and intelligently trying to counter those punches with his technical, clean 1-2 down the middle. I thought he could have landed on Dricus multiple times throughout the fight, but instead he just leans back and tries to wing out those hooks. So I think that Dricus is doing really well, and I think that Sean Strickland is not, but I don't think he's evil. I don't think he's getting better, and as more and more fight footage comes out ahead, his opponents are going to be able to style better. Much harder for him to start winning. We can talk about Zhang Weili fighting Tatiana Suarez. Zhang Weili looking amazing, completely shutting down Tatiana Suarez's striking game. Completely shutting down Tatiana Suarez's grappling game, out grappling her round except round number 1. Even in round number 1, Tatiana Suarez got Zhang Weili down, controlled her on the ground. Zhang Weili ended up reversing it and landing some really big punches, rocking Tatiana Suarez on the feet. And this was a fight where I was surprised Zhang Weili was dogging. Zhang Weili's getting older, there's no doubt about that. But her grappling is extremely good. She is extremely athletic. Her biggest weakness, in my opinion, is her striking defense. She can get off base and has to really take a while to reset her striking to actually try to land something back onto her opponent. I think if you get a good enough striker that can frustrate Zhang Weili grappling through good takedown defense, that would be the person to beat Zhang Weili. What we got instead was Tatiana Suarez, very good grappler with non-existent striking. That is just not the recipe you need to beat someone as well-rounded as you. You can see that Tatiana Suarez gets this takedown, and 30 seconds later, Zhang back up and finishes the round on top. All 3 judges gave Tatiana Suarez round 1. From there, it was pretty much a shutout for Zhang Weili. Stuffs every single takedown, or if she does get taken down, she takedown and actually ends up on top. She lands great ground and pound, threatens submissions multiple times throughout the fight, and rocks Tatiana Suarez with big punches down the pipe, almost knocking her out multiple times. So at the end of the day, Tatiana Suarez ended the fight looking pretty dejected and knowing that she failed. And I do think this was an extremely poor showing from an overconfident fighter in Tatiana Suarez. Just did not have her striking game up to snuff. She didn't even have her grappling up to snuff. She didn't have the cardio required to defeat a champion as good as Zhang Weili. So as disappointed as I am in a highly touted prospect like Tatiana Suarez, we need to put that to the side and just focus on how good of a fighter Zhang Weili is. Zhang Weili has lost her belt against Rose Namajunas, challenged for it, fought Joanna Jędrzejczyk to get another rematch for the belt, knocked out Joanna, choked out Carla Esparza, completely dominated Amanda Lemos, beat Yan Xiaonan, and now beat undefeated prospect in which she was the underdog, Tatiana Suarez. Zhang Weili started to get talked about in the conversation for the greatest women's fighter of all time. Because right now, it seems like there's no one in the division that's close to touching her. She has cleared out the division twice over. This is supposed to be the next generation of prospect in Tatiana Suarez. This is supposed to be the uncrowned champion. Zhang Weili made her look like she has insane athleticism, great wrestling skills, great striking, and just an unwavering faith in herself and an ability to keep fighting no matter what. And it just seems like her opponents have no hope of matching her at all. The only one who was able to match her in anything was Rose Namajunas. He greatly utilized grappling to be able to control Zhang Weili on the ground. Even those fights were extremely close, where the second fight was a split decision. Since then, Zhang Weili has shored up her grappling ability, and now is just bulldozing. She utilized a lot of the clinch game, landing really good knees to Tatiana Suarez, landed great elbows from guard on top of Tatiana Suarez, and just really good striking, rocking her with 1-2s multiple times throughout the fight. It was a shutout performance from Zhang Weili, and again, she needs to be put into the conversation of the greatest female fighter of all time, because her accolades are really up. After that fight, we didn't have that much more. Justin Tafa proves himself to be an unfit heavyweight. Anyone to talk about. He's just not worth talking about at all. His opponent did a good job of beating him up. Head kicked him, which was great. And then he went for a takedown, which Justin Tafa defended. And then he just landed an elbow that completely busted up Tafa's nose and knocked him out. Talison Teixeira, undefeated prospect. I think he's like 6'7". He's Brazilian, only 25 years old, looking really good. Jimmy Crute fought against Rodolfo Bellato, and it ended up in a draw, which I agree with. I thought that rounds 2 and 3 were extremely close, but I would give the edge to Bellato. And Jimmy Crute proved again that he really of not much. I wouldn't give too much attention to Jimmy. He had a great first round where he rocked Bellato, and then he was also able to land really ground and pound on the ground. I thought was a 10-8 round, but then he just lost his footing on the gas in rounds 2 and 3. And the nail in the coffin for me with Jimmy Crute is he had 20 seconds left in extremely close round 3, and instead of actually putting his foot on the gas, ignoring the pain in his leg, ignoring the pain in his body, fighting through his exhaustion, he decides to put his hands down, stick out his tongue, and just mog his opponent. Round that was an extremely close round, but he was losing. I really have no respect for that, and he has no one to blame on that draw but himself. Jake Matthews put on a really good performance against Francisco Prado, pretty much just outstriking him for the course of a 15-round fight. Nothing really remarkable, but he looked quick. He was able to land some really good shots, getting that tie clinch, landing good uppercuts on Prado. Prado has a good chin, but he was just outstruck in this fight, and Jake Matthews looked pretty good. So, not a great night for the crowd favorites. Zhang Weili, I guess, was the crowd favorite in Australia, and Dricus Plessis obviously too. But let me know what your thoughts on this pay-per-view down below in the comment section. How did you think Zhang Weili did? How did you think that Plessis did? Do you think that Dricus du Plessis is actually going to Chimaev? I tend to think that he will, simply because Dricus's cardio seems to be way better than Khamzat's, but I think that's still extremely exciting in the future. Anyway, guys, enjoy the video. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown, and I'll catch you